Racist cop attacks black woman in court without knowing she's his new police chief. The midday sun beat down on the streets of Cedar Ridge, a small town in the American South. Officer Thomas Wilson, a burly man with a stern face and a reputation for being quick to anger, patrolled his usual beat. He spotted a young black woman, Ashley Johnson, walking down the sidewalk, her head bent over her phone. Wilson, known for his discriminatory behavior, decided to make a show of authority. He pulled his cruiser over, stepped out, and approached Ashley. "Hey, you there," he barked. "What do you think you're doing, walking around like you own the place?" Ashley, startled, looked up. She recognized Officer Wilson, his face etched with a familiar sneer. She had heard stories about his mistreatment of black residents, but she had never been directly confronted by him before. "I'm just walking home from work, officer," she replied, her voice calm but firm. Wilson, unimpressed, stepped closer. "Well, maybe you should be more careful where you're walking," he said, his voice laced with menace. "Wouldn't want to cause any trouble, would you?" Ashley, feeling a surge of anger, stood her ground. "I'm not causing any trouble, officer," she said. "I'm just trying to get home." Wilson, his temper flaring, grabbed Ashley's arm. "Don't you get smart with me," he snarled. "I said be careful, and I meant it." Ashley, fearing for her safety, tried to pull away. But Wilson's grip tightened, and he shoved her against the police car, her body slamming against the hot metal. A bystander, witnessing the altercation, quickly pulled out their phone and started recording. The video captured Wilson's aggressive behavior, his verbal abuse, and the physical assault on Ashley. Ashley, shaken and humiliated, managed to break free from Wilson's grasp. She glared at him, her eyes filled with anger and defiance. "You'll regret this, officer," she said, her voice trembling. Wilson, smirking, dismissed her threat. "Yeah, right," he scoffed. "What are you going to do, sue me?" Ashley, her resolve hardening, straightened her clothes and walked away, the bystander's phone still recording her retreating figure. The video of the incident quickly went viral, spreading across social media and news outlets. The public outcry was swift and fierce. People were outraged by Officer Wilson's blatant abuse of power and his racist behavior. The Cedar Ridge Police Department faced immense pressure to take action. An internal investigation was launched, and Officer Wilson was placed on administrative leave. Ashley, meanwhile, sought legal counsel. She was determined to hold Officer Wilson accountable for his actions and to expose the systemic racism that allowed such behavior to flourish within the police department. The video of Ashley's confrontation with Officer Wilson sent shockwaves through Cedar Ridge. The incident became a lightning rod for discussions about race, power, and police brutality. Protests erupted in the streets, with people demanding justice for Ashley and accountability for Officer Wilson. The Cedar Ridge Police Department, facing intense scrutiny, scrambled to contain the fallout. The chief of police, a seasoned officer named Michael Davis, found himself caught between the demands of the public and the pressure from within his own department. Many officers, loyal to Wilson, saw the incident as an overreaction, a simple case of an officer doing his job. Davis, however, knew that the situation was far more complex. He had long been aware of the undercurrent of racism within the department, but he had always turned a blind eye, hoping to maintain peace and avoid rocking the boat. Now, the boat was capsizing, and he was forced to confront the deep-rooted issues that had plagued his department for years. Ashley, meanwhile, found herself at the center of a media storm. News outlets clamored for interviews, and her story became a symbol of the struggle against racial injustice. She received countless messages of support from people across the country, but she also faced a barrage of hate mail and online threats. Despite the turmoil, Ashley remained resolute. She hired a prominent civil rights attorney, Sarah Jenkins, a woman known for her sharp wit and her unwavering commitment to justice. Jenkins had a reputation for taking on powerful institutions and winning, and she saw Ashley's case as an opportunity to expose the systemic racism that permeated the Cedar Ridge Police Department. The internal investigation into Officer Wilson's conduct dragged on for weeks. Witnesses were interviewed, evidence was gathered, and the video of the incident was analyzed frame by frame. The pressure on Chief Davis mounted as the public grew impatient for answers. Finally, the investigation concluded. The findings were damning. Officer Wilson was found to have used excessive force, engaged in verbal abuse, and violated department protocols. The report also highlighted a pattern of discriminatory behavior by Wilson, with several other black residents coming forward with similar complaints. Chief Davis, facing a public relations nightmare, had no choice but to act. He announced Officer Wilson's termination, effective immediately. The decision was met with cheers from the protesters and condemnation from Wilson's supporters. But Ashley and Jenkins knew that firing Wilson was not enough. They wanted to see him face criminal charges for his actions. They filed a lawsuit against Wilson and the Cedar Ridge Police Department, alleging assault, battery, and violation of civil rights. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the town. It was a direct challenge to the power structure, a demand for accountability from those who had long considered themselves above the law. The battle lines were drawn, and the stage was set for a legal showdown that would expose the deep-seated racism and corruption within the Cedar Ridge Police Department. News of Officer Wilson's termination and the subsequent lawsuit reverberated throughout Cedar Ridge, dividing the community. Supporters of Wilson rallied around him, claiming he was a victim of political correctness and a biased media. They organized counter-protests, waving Blue Lives Matter flags and accusing Ashley of playing the race card. The tension in the town was palpable. The once peaceful streets were now filled with angry voices and opposing factions. Chief Davis found himself walking a tightrope, trying to maintain order while navigating the complex political landscape. Ashley, meanwhile, prepared for the legal battle ahead. She met with Sarah Jenkins regularly, reviewing the evidence, strategizing their approach, and steeling herself for the inevitable attacks on her character and credibility. Jenkins, a seasoned litigator, warned Ashley that the road to justice would be long and arduous. "They're going to try to paint you as a troublemaker, a liar, a gold digger," Jenkins explained. "They'll dig up your past, scrutinize your every move, and try to discredit you in any way they can." Ashley, though intimidated, was undeterred. She knew that what happened to her was wrong, and she was determined to fight for justice, not just for herself, but for all those who had suffered at the hands of Officer Wilson and the Cedar Ridge Police Department. The lawsuit moved forward, slowly but surely. Depositions were taken, evidence was exchanged, and the legal teams prepared for trial. The media attention was relentless, with every development in the case making headlines. One day, Ashley received a surprising phone call. It was from the mayor of Cedar Ridge, a woman named Emily Carter. Mayor Carter had been elected on a platform of reform and transparency, and she had been vocal in her condemnation of Officer Wilson's actions. "Ms. Johnson," Mayor Carter said, "I know this is a difficult time for you, but I wanted to express my support. What happened to you was unacceptable, and I'm committed to ensuring that justice is served." Ashley was taken aback by the mayor's call. She had expected hostility from the city's leadership, but Mayor Carter's words offered a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this incident could be a catalyst for real change in Cedar Ridge. Mayor Carter invited Ashley to meet with her at City Hall. Ashley, cautiously optimistic, accepted the invitation. She met with the mayor and several city council members, discussing the need for police reform, accountability, and community healing. The meeting was a positive step, but Ashley knew that words were not enough. She needed to see concrete action, real change within the police department and the city's leadership. The lawsuit was still pending, and the outcome was uncertain. But Ashley had found her voice, and she was determined to use it to fight for a better future for herself and her community. The lawsuit against Officer Wilson and the Cedar Ridge Police Department gained momentum. Sarah Jenkins, Ashley's attorney, skillfully navigated the legal complexities, building a strong case against the defendants. She presented evidence of Wilson's history of misconduct, the department's failure to address his behavior, and the systemic racism that allowed such abuses to occur. The defense team, representing Wilson and the police department, fought back fiercely. They attempted to discredit Ashley, portraying her as an unreliable witness with an ulterior motive. They argued that Wilson's actions were justified, claiming he was simply doing his job in a difficult situation. The trial became a media spectacle, with reporters and cameras crowding the courtroom. The nation watched as Ashley took the stand, recounting the events of that fateful day. She spoke with courage and conviction, her voice unwavering as she described the humiliation and fear she had experienced. The jury listened intently, their faces etched with concern. They heard from expert witnesses, reviewed the video evidence, and weighed the arguments of both sides. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the trial reached its climax. After days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. They found Officer Wilson guilty of assault, battery, and violation of civil rights. They also found the Cedar Ridge Police Department liable for failing to prevent Wilson's misconduct. The courtroom erupted in cheers as the verdict was read. Ashley, overcome with emotion, embraced Sarah Jenkins. They had won a significant victory, not just for Ashley, but for all those who had suffered at the hands of Officer Wilson and the police department. The judge, in a stern voice, sentenced Officer Wilson to a significant prison term and ordered the Cedar Ridge Police Department to pay a substantial fine. He also mandated sweeping reforms within the department, including mandatory training on racial bias, de-escalation techniques, and community policing. The verdict sent shockwaves through Cedar Ridge and beyond. It was a landmark decision, a powerful message that police officers were not above the law and that systemic racism would not be tolerated. The case became a rallying cry for police reform advocates across the country. In the wake of the trial, Chief Davis resigned from his position. He acknowledged his failure to address the problems within his department and expressed remorse for the harm that had been caused. The city council appointed a new chief, a woman named Maria Rodriguez, who had a reputation for integrity and a commitment to community policing. Chief Rodriguez immediately set about implementing the court-ordered reforms. She hired new officers, diversified the department's leadership, and established community outreach programs. She worked tirelessly to rebuild trust between the police and the community, emphasizing transparency, accountability, and respect. The road to healing was long and difficult, but Cedar Ridge began to take steps towards a more just and equitable future. The incident with Ashley and Officer Wilson had exposed the deep-seated racism and corruption within the police department, but it had also sparked a movement for change. The community, once divided, began to come together, united in their desire for a better future for all its residents. The dust settled after the trial, but the ripples of change continued to spread through Cedar Ridge. Ashley, now a symbol of courage and resilience, returned to her life, but it was a life irrevocably altered. She had faced her fears, spoken truth to power, and emerged victorious, but the scars of the ordeal remained. She continued to receive support from her community, but also faced lingering animosity from those who sided with Officer Wilson. Navigating this complex social landscape took strength and resilience, but Ashley, bolstered by her newfound confidence, refused to be silenced. She decided to channel her experience into advocacy, becoming a vocal advocate for police reform and racial justice. She spoke at rallies, gave interviews, and shared her story with anyone who would listen. Her voice, once trembling, now resonated with power and conviction. Meanwhile, the Cedar Ridge Police Department underwent a significant transformation under Chief Rodriguez's leadership. The culture of impunity that had allowed Officer Wilson to thrive was dismantled, replaced by an emphasis on accountability, transparency, and community engagement. One day, Ashley received an unexpected phone call. It was from Chief Rodriguez, inviting her to meet at the police station. Ashley, hesitant but curious, accepted the invitation. When she arrived at the station, she was greeted by Chief Rodriguez, who led her to a conference room. There, sitting at the table, was a familiar figure, his head bowed in shame. It was Officer Wilson, his uniform replaced by prison garb. Chief Rodriguez explained that Wilson had requested to meet with Ashley. He wanted to apologize for his actions, to express his remorse, and to ask for her forgiveness. Ashley was taken aback. She had never expected an apology from Wilson, let alone a request for forgiveness. She looked at him, his once arrogant demeanor replaced by humility, and felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Wilson, his voice trembling, began to speak. "Ms. Johnson," he said, "I know that I wronged you. I abused my power, I humiliated you, and I caused you immense pain. I was wrong, and I am truly sorry," he continued, his voice cracking with emotion. "I was blinded by my own prejudice, by the culture of racism that permeated the department. I thought I was above the law, that I could get away with anything. But I was wrong, and I have paid the price." He looked at Ashley, his eyes filled with regret. "I know that my apology cannot undo the harm that I have caused, but I hope that you can find it in your heart to forgive me." Ashley listened to Wilson's words, her heart heavy with emotion. She thought about the pain he had caused her, the fear he had instilled, the injustice he had perpetrated. But she also saw a glimmer of remorse, a genuine desire for redemption. After a long silence, Ashley spoke. "Officer Wilson," she said, "what you did to me was wrong. It was a violation of my rights, my dignity, and my humanity. But I believe that people can change, that they can learn from their mistakes. She paused, her voice softening. I cannot forget what you did, but I can forgive you. I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. Holding on to anger and resentment will only hurt me in the end. Wilson looked up, his eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, he said. Your forgiveness means more to me than you can know. Chief Rodriguez, witnessing this unexpected exchange, felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of a true healing process, a chance for reconciliation and redemption. The road ahead was still long, but this small act of forgiveness offered a glimmer of light in the darkness. The encounter with Officer Wilson left a profound impact on Ashley. Forgiving him had been a difficult but liberating experience. It allowed her to let go of the anger and resentment that had been weighing her down, freeing her to focus on healing and moving forward. Her advocacy work continued to gain momentum. She became a sought-after speaker, sharing her story with audiences across the country. She spoke about the importance of accountability, the need for police reform, and the power of forgiveness. Her message resonated with people from all walks of life. She inspired others to speak out against injustice, to demand change, and to believe in the possibility of redemption. She became a beacon of hope, a symbol of the resilience of the human spirit. One day, Ashley received an invitation to speak at a national conference on criminal justice reform. The conference was attended by policymakers, law enforcement officials, and community leaders from across the country. Ashley's speech was powerful and moving. She spoke about her experience with Officer Wilson, the trial, and her journey of forgiveness. She challenged the audience to confront the systemic racism that permeated the criminal justice system and to work towards a more just and equitable society. Her words were met with a standing ovation. People were moved by her courage, her honesty, and her unwavering commitment to justice. Among those in the audience was a representative from a prestigious law firm, who was impressed by Ashley's passion and eloquence. After the conference, the representative approached Ashley, offering her a job as a legal consultant. Ashley, surprised and flattered, accepted the offer. It was a new chapter in her life, an opportunity to use her experience and her voice to make a real difference in the world. She began working at the law firm, assisting with cases related to civil rights, police misconduct, and criminal justice reform. She quickly proved to be a valuable asset, her insights and experience providing a unique perspective on the legal challenges facing marginalized communities. Her work at the firm brought her into contact with a wide range of people, including judges, lawyers, and community activists. She built a reputation as a skilled advocate, a passionate voice for justice, and a tireless champion for those who had been wronged by the system. One day, she received a call from the mayor of Cedar Ridge, Emily Carter. The mayor informed Ashley that the city council had voted to create a new position within the police department, a civilian oversight board, tasked with monitoring police conduct and ensuring accountability. Mayor Carter offered Ashley the position of chair of the oversight board. Ashley, honored and humbled, accepted the offer. It was a chance to return to Cedar Ridge, to work alongside Chief Rodriguez, and to help shape the future of the police department. She returned to Cedar Ridge, ready to take on this new challenge. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but she was determined to make a difference. She had come full circle, from victim to advocate to leader. She was a force for change, a voice for the voiceless, and a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needed it. Ashley's return to Cedar Ridge was met with mixed reactions. Many welcomed her as a hero, a symbol of the town's commitment to change. Others, still clinging to old prejudices and resentments, viewed her with suspicion and hostility. Ashley, however, refused to be deterred. She understood that progress was often met with resistance, and she was prepared to face the challenges ahead with courage and determination. She began her work as chair of the Civilian Oversight Board with a focus on transparency and community engagement. She held public forums, met with residents, and listened to their concerns. She wanted to build trust between the police and the community to create a system of accountability that worked for everyone. She worked closely with Chief Rodriguez, who had proven to be a strong and capable leader. Together, they implemented new policies, revised training protocols, and established clear guidelines for police conduct. They emphasized de-escalation techniques, cultural sensitivity, and the importance of community policing. The changes were not without their challenges. Some officers, resistant to the new reforms, grumbled about being micromanaged and second-guessed. Others, however, embraced the changes, recognizing the need for greater accountability and transparency. Ashley also faced pushback from some members of the community. Those who had supported Officer Wilson accused her of being anti-police and of undermining law enforcement. Ashley, however, remained steadfast in her commitment to justice and fairness. She understood that change was a process, not an event. It would take time to build trust, to overcome deeply ingrained prejudices, and to create a truly equitable system of policing. But she was determined to see it through, knowing that the future of Cedar Ridge depended on it. One of her first initiatives as chair of the Oversight Board was to establish a community liaison program. She recruited volunteers from diverse backgrounds to serve as liaisons between the police and the community. These liaisons would attend community meetings, participate in ride-alongs with officers, and provide feedback on police interactions with residents. The program was met with initial skepticism from both the police and the community. Some officers worried that the liaisons would be biased against them, while some residents questioned whether the program would truly make a difference. Ashley, however, persisted. She believed that the liaison program was essential to building trust and fostering understanding between the police and the community. She worked tirelessly to recruit and train the liaisons, emphasizing the importance of objectivity, fairness, and respect. Gradually, the program began to show results. The liaisons provided valuable feedback to the police department, identifying areas where improvements could be made. They also helped to educate the community about police procedures and policies, dispelling myths and misconceptions. The relationship between the police and the community began to improve, slowly but surely. There were still challenges and setbacks, but the overall trend was positive. Ashley's leadership, combined with Chief Rodriguez's commitment to reform, was making a real difference in Cedar Ridge. As Ashley settled into her role, she discovered a surprising ally in an unlikely place, Officer Wilson. He had served his time, and upon release, found himself ostracized by the community and former colleagues. He reached out to Ashley, not for forgiveness this time, but for guidance. Wilson had undergone a profound transformation during his incarceration. He had reflected on his actions, confronted his prejudices, and come to terms with the harm he had caused. He wanted to make amends, to contribute to the healing process in Cedar Ridge. Ashley, though initially hesitant, recognized the sincerity in Wilson's remorse. She saw an opportunity for redemption, a chance to demonstrate that even those who had committed grave wrongs could change and contribute to a better future. She agreed to meet with Wilson, and they began a series of conversations. Wilson shared his experiences in prison, the challenges he faced, and the lessons he had learned. He expressed a desire to use his story to educate others, to warn against the dangers of prejudice and abuse of power. Ashley, impressed by Wilson's transformation, decided to give him a chance. She helped him find a job at a local community center, working with at-risk youth. Wilson, grateful for the opportunity, poured his heart and soul into his work. He mentored young people, shared his story, and encouraged them to make positive choices. His work at the community center earned him the respect of the residents, who gradually began to see him in a new light. He became a living example of redemption, a testament to the power of change and forgiveness. Ashley's collaboration with Wilson surprised many in Cedar Ridge. Some criticized her for associating with a convicted criminal, while others praised her for her compassion and willingness to give someone a second chance. Ashley, however, remained unfazed by the criticism. She believed that everyone deserved an opportunity for redemption, and she was proud to support Wilson in his journey. Their unlikely partnership became a symbol of healing and reconciliation in Cedar Ridge. The town continued to evolve, its wounds slowly healing. The police department, under Chief Rodriguez's leadership, had become a model of community policing. The Civilian Oversight Board, with Ashley at the helm, ensured transparency and accountability. Cedar Ridge was not a utopia, but it was a town on the mend. It had confronted its demons, learned from its mistakes, and emerged stronger and more united. The incident with Ashley and Officer Wilson had been a catalyst for change, a painful but necessary step towards a more just and equitable future.